Cassie Lemon's 2019 film Harriet, it follows a woman's so-called slave's life of being taken and owned by Americans to get their own job done, dedicating her life to free not only herself, but others from a work they didn't sign up for. She escaped slavery in 1849 from Maryland and found herself in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But she realized that she wanted to go back and save her loved ones. She did 13 missions at the age of 27 and saved many, many enslaved people. She left a mark on history still talked about to this day. We call her Harriet Tubman. Marie Buchanan once said, "Yes, I'm a woman, yes, I'm a Negro, and yes, I own this place." I chose this quote from the movie because it's important to know that it wasn't common to be a woman of color to own a place of their own. But Buchanan was able to do this because she was born free. Being a woman back then was hard, but being black was even harder. People can interpret this quote in many different ways than I did, but to me it was a horrible and disparaging time for women in general, but especially for women of color. Harriet takes place in the 1840s on a plantation in Dorchester County, Maryland. It covers up to 1840 through 1863 with many streams, creeks, and rivers that kind of depicts that a little bit. The major events that were taking place during the same time period as Harriet was the John Brown raid and the Civil War. John Brown was killing slave owners in the South while Harriet was rescuing slaves in 1849. On the other hand, the Civil War started in 1861 and ended in 1865, but during that, Harriet was a spy for the Union Army. This film is comparable to progressive historiography due to conflict between two groups and its dealing with race, gender, religion, and social class. She talks a lot about God and how he helps guide her to where she needs to be or go. The two conflicting parties would have been the South and the North. The South wanted Congress to pass the Fugitive Slave Act, but the North didn't want that. But Congress ended up passing that piece of legislation, which basically meant anyone could hunt any slaves that were fugitive. But later on, Harriet and her family were set free, and she eventually got remarried to a guy named Nelson Davis, who served in the American Civil War at the time. So there were some changes over time, but there was still some controversy and continuity there. The film caused current events because if Harriet Tubman didn't escape slavery, people wouldn't really realize that slavery was wrong, and Abraham Lincoln wouldn't have started the war to end slavery, thus making slavery forever banished. So now here's a 4-minute clip from the movie.
Minty! Minty!
Name's Harriet. Toss your gun. Toss your gun. Off your horse. Off your horse. On your knees.
Didn't have to end like this. You could have stayed with us. If only you knew how to behave. But you were unruly and untamed. I guess that's what I liked about you. And you liked me too. I know you did. Praying for me when I was sick. Asking God to keep me well.
I asked God how a sickly little boy could think he owned me.
I do own you, Minty. Even now, you're mine.
I was never yours, Gideon. I was never nobody's property. Ever since your daddy sold my sisters, I prayed for God to make me strong enough to fight. And that's what I prayed for ever since. I reasoned that there was one or two things I had a right to. Liberty or death. If I couldn't have one, I'd have the other.
You know what they're gonna do to you when they catch you. They will tear you limb from limb, tar you and burn you alive. And even if I'm not there to watch it, I can almost smell it now. Like roasting pig.
You're gonna die right here. On a freezing, blood-soaked battlefield. The moans of a generation of young men dying around you in agony for a lost cause, for a vile and wicked idea, for the sin of slavery. Can you hear him? God don't mean people to own people, Gideon. Our time is near.
I would give this film a 4.5 out of 5 due to accuracy because, for example, in the beginning of the movie, Harriet and her husband John hired a lawyer to look at the will and determine that, like her father, Harriet's mother should have been liberated at age 45, but in real life, the will had imposed that Harriet and her siblings should be set free when they turned 45, not at the same time as her mother. But one strength the film did have was that it showed symbolism throughout it, such as when Harriet would collapse, she would have these visions where she talks to God and he would help guide her to freedom, including the other slaves that she rescued. So I do think other people should see this film because it's deeply moving to the point that it makes you feel like you're in the movie and you can feel what the other characters are going through, even if it's just a fraction of pain that they felt.